Hello folks, this is going to be the fundamentals portion of Adobe Photoshop CS6. So if you see here on my actual user face, you can see I have my history panel open and my layers panel open. And just to review, we go to window, and under window we can find those two panels if we don't have those open right now. And you can close any other panels that are open that you have. Okay, to get started, we're going to locate our Photoshop folder, the fundamentals folder that has the exercise 1 preview file in it. So I'm going to go ahead to open here. And most likely my folder is going to be in a separate location or a different location that yours is in. So, but you should have this fundamental folders here. And right now what we're going to do is just open up the preview file here. So we should all have this open now, and you can see that this has a graphic. We have some gradients here. That's the two tones, one tone fading into another tone. We have a couple other different graphic elements. Some of it looks a little 3D. We have some text. And with all these elements, these are the most basic concepts that you need to learn in order to be successful here in Photoshop. So what we're going to actually be doing is recreating this whole graphic, and we're going to go through step by step on how to do this. So what you're going to want to do is follow along, watch this video on one side of your screen, and then have Photoshop open on the other side of your screen, and just follow along. You can press pause if you need to anytime during the video, and go back and rework maybe a step that I did, or just mess around with some of the options that we're going to be looking at. So feel free to do that. Okay, now what we want to do is create a new layer. In order to do that, I'm going to go up to Layer, New, and then click on Layer. And what's going to happen is a dialog box is going to pop up. And what we want to do is name this layer White Fill. And these other options that are in this dialog box, don't worry about them. We can actually change these after we have created the layer over here in the layers panel. So go ahead and click OK. And what we're going to do, we are going to make this white fill layer a screen, a transparent screen in front of the original graphic, so we can easily create the new objects and have them be almost exactly the same as the original graphic. So we'll be able to see through it. It's very similar to tracing. So what I'm going to do is go up to Edit and go down to Fill. And whenever we click there, we want to make sure this white fill layer is selected. And then we're just going to go down to white here, and then we will click OK. And what that does, it fills our whole area with white. And now we have created a new layer. You can always turn a layer on and off by clicking on the eyeball, and you can see what is underneath it. But for the tutorial purposes here, what I am going to do is make sure the white fill layer is selected, and you will know it's selected because it'll be highlighted in this light blue here. And we're going to bring this opacity down to about 60%. And what I did there, I just hovered over opacity. You can see how the hand turns, or the cursor turns into a hand with the arrow left and right. If you just click and drag to the right or to the left, it'll change your values. So I'm going to leave mine on about 60 here. And there we are. Now we can see the background original image here, and we're going to start layering on top of these layers the newly created graphic that you are going to make. Notice that up in the history panel, it's starting to populate with the actions we've been making. So if I click back one, it will go back to the last action. If we go back to here, it'll go back to that last action. It's basically doing the undo button for you, but it's not actually applying it. It's just showing you what it is, but then you can quickly go back to what it was. So if you do quite a few steps here and you're not sure it's not what you want, just click back on the original look of it and then continue creating. It'll actually end up deleting the ones that are not bright here. These ones will go away. But anyway, we can go back to here for now. Now that we have our white fill layer created, we can go ahead and start making the graphic. So what I'm going to do, I want to go to my selection tool. Right here, you may actually have the rectangular selection tool selected. But what we want to do is select on the elliptical marquee tool. So any of these tools here on the left, if they have this little arrow to the bottom right hand side of them, it means there's another tool hidden underneath them. So if you click and hold, it'll bring up those options. And like I said, we want to use the elliptical marquee tool here. So now what we want to do is zoom in on this left eye area here. And there's a couple ways to zoom. I'm gonna explain two ways right now on how to zoom. If you hold in Control plus Alt on your keyboard, hold them in, and on your mouse, use your scroll button. And whenever you bring it towards you, you're going to scroll out, and when you bring it towards the computer, it will go in. So that's what we want to do, is bring it in here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it out. I'm going to show you the other way. The other way is if you hold in Control plus, and this is on the keyboard, Control plus, and plus is right to the left of backspace, it will zoom in. If you press holding Control and press the minus, it will zoom out. Going through these exercises, you will see me most likely use either one of those the most. But I will tell you right now, I usually use the Control plus Alt and scroll with the mouse whenever I do most of my zooming. So let's go ahead and zoom in on the eye here. And what we are going to do is create a new layer. And I'm going to show you a new way actually to create a new layer. Last time we went up to Layer, New, and then clicked on Layer. I'm going to go ahead and click Escape from there, or click out in this area. And down here what we have is Create New Layer panel, or button here, as you can. Let me see here, it's actually going on to my, okay, create new layer. That's this button right here, the one right to the left of the trash can, and that's at the bottom of the layers panel. So go ahead and click that button, and a new layer is going to pop up and say layer 1. What we want to do is double click that, and then it highlights it, and that's going to allow us to rename that layer. I'm going to name it left circle. And we want to make sure it's selected, so you can click on the different layers to select them. Make sure left circle is selected, and what we want to do is cast a selection that's a perfect circle. There's only one way to create a perfect circle through a selection. And if, for example, I'm going to just left click with my mouse and drag out a selection, and you can see that it's taking more of like an ellipse oval kind of form here. We don't want to do that. You can see here that it's not the way we actually want it. So if you actually do make a selection that you don't want, or it's not correct, press Control D on your keyboard. It gets rid of it. Or I'll do that one more time. That's the same thing as going up to select and deselect. Because right now dragging this circle out is meaning you're selecting a certain area of pixels on this layer. But what we want to do is make it more specifically around this blue part of the circle. So again, I'm going to press Control D. And to make it a perfect circle, I'm going to click up in this area here, and I'm going to hold in Shift while I drag this out. And what this is doing, it is making the circle perfectly circular. It's a perfect circle. So I'm going to get it close to about the size, and if you're not right on, don't worry about it. We're going to move it here. So then I'm going to let go with my mouse button first, and here's our selection. Now there's a couple ways to move it. If I left click and drag in the middle of here, I can now move it then into the middle of my selection. Or if you use the arrow keys on your keyboard, you can move the selection as well, like so. So now let's go ahead and go in here, and if you look, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here. You can see I'm not completely to the edge of this blue here with my selection, but I am not going to recast a new selection. What I am going to do is modify the selection I just created. In order to do that, I need to go up to Select, go down to Modify, and what you can do, you can either expand, which makes larger, or contract, which makes smaller your selection. So I obviously need to make it larger, so I'm going to click on Expand, and right now it asks you how many pixels you want to expand it. Each one of these little squares that you see on here is 1 pixel. What I want to do, you can see I'm about a pixel shy of actually being right in all of this blue. So I want to expand mine by 1 pixel. Yours may be a little bit smaller or a little bit larger than mine, so yours may be more than 1 pixel. So I'm just going to leave mine at 1 and then click OK, and you can see now it has encompassed all of the blue in here. Now what I need to do is fill this with a blue color. And what we need to do is actually modify our foreground color to do that. So I'm going to click on foreground color, and notice that there's these little gliders right here on these color swatches. So I'm going to drag mine up to the blue area, and then I am going to drag over here, and I'm going to get the truest blue color I can get from these sliders here. Whenever that happens, I'm going to click OK. What that does, it just changes your foreground color. Now we have to apply it to our selection. So what we need to do is go up to Edit, Fill, and instead of using white here, we want to go to foreground color and then click OK. And now you can see you have created a blue circle. And you can notice that mine is a bit, I'd say, actually, it's a bit off from the original blue color. That it doesn't matter. If yours is the same way, it's fine. Just roll with whatever color you have there. But just keep it similar to the way it is. Chances are you're never going to get exactly the same graphic as an original one. If you're doing what we're doing here, which is recreating the graphic. So what I am going to do is zoom out a bit here, and then I am going to press Control D, and instead of actually redoing that whole process for the right part of the eye here, I'm going to duplicate this left circle layer. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to click and drag the layer down to the new layer option, or the new layer button down here, and let go. And you can see it gave me a left circle copy layer. What I'm going to do is double click that name and name it right circle. And right now it's not your right circle because it was duplicated exactly on top of the last circle. So what I'm going to do is with the right circle layer selected, I'm going to go over and click on my move tool, and I am going to click in the middle here and move it over to the right side there. And if you're having trouble clicking and dragging it into position, remember you can use your arrow keys, but you can only use your arrow keys when the move tool is selected.